Just a quick disclaimer before we begin. This video's purpose is in no way, shape, or form to replace the advice of a medical professional nor a pharmacy. This video is simply harm reduction as well as explaining how the auto-injector works. So that being said, the very first thing you want to do before you grab anything else is you're going to want to wash your hands with soap and warm water. Now once that is done, what you're going to want to do is gather your supplies. So first things first, have our injectable medication. And what you want to do, you want to hold it in your hands, rub it between your hands, just sort of warm it up. It makes it quite easier to draw up, and it also makes it absorb that much better into your skin. Right? And then, next thing you're going to need are one syringe barrel, one sealed syringe barrel, and two different needles. One to draw up with and one to inject with. Then of course, if you happen to be using the auto-injector, just a quick disclaimer, I've been using this for intramuscular for almost 2 years at this point. I do not believe that's its intended purpose. It seems as though it's made for people with insulin deficiencies, but I've sort of, just a disclaimer, I don't think that's what it's made for. However, this is just simply what has worked for me in doing injections for the past 2 years or so. So, you're obviously going to want to need alcohol wipes, but if you don't have access to alcohol wipes, I recommend cotton balls. But make sure they're not just loose ones you find on the ground. They're in a sealed container. And of course, 70% isopropyl alcohol. You're going to need 2 cotton balls. And you're going to want to kind of like make sure there's no like loose cotton or anything coming off of it. You know, it could get into the medication, it could get into your body, and that is not what we want. So you want to fully soak it in the isopropyl alcohol. And then you're going to want to wipe the top of the medication. And what actually kills the germs is not the alcohol itself, but drying. So we're going to set that aside and let it dry. And with the same alcohol pad that you just wiped it down with, you're going to want to clean your auto-injector. Obviously, always clean it before and after use. Now mine is damaged, and I probably shouldn't be using it as there's a crack right down the center right there. So I always make sure that no alcohol gets in there. Any part that's going to touch your skin, any part that may or may not come in contact with your needle, make sure it is sterile. And set that back in its box, and we're going to let that dry. And this can be safely placed aside. Then, of course, you're going to need to get your sterile sealed syringe barrel, and then your draw-up needle, which should be ever so slightly bigger than your injection needle. And the thing with needles that I learned the hard way was the lower the number, the wider the needle is. So you need a slightly lower number to draw up with, right? And then attach it like so. Now sometimes some may be in a lock or some may be in a slip. This one is a slip. Doesn't really make all the much difference how you put it on. Going to unpackage everything and just twist it on like so. Then you're going to want to, this is going to be a different dose for everyone, so don't watch this video for dosing, but you're going to want to pull back on the syringe and get air in the syringe at about the dose that you're going to want to draw up. And then very carefully uncap the syringe. Turn your vial upside down. And very pro tip, always hit the rubber part of this vial in a different spot each and every time. If not, you might have pieces of rubber fall into your medication, ruining the entire thing. And you're going to push all the air into the vial. And what that does is it makes a seal, allowing you to draw up ever slightly easier. Now again, this is still rather viscous medication, so it should take a while just to trickle into the syringe. And when drawing up, always make sure the needle is sitting below. Oh my gosh, I messed it up while saying it. But going to always make sure it's below the line of the oil so you're not pulling air into your syringe. And of course, even if there's, like so, if you can see, there might be small bubbles inside of the syringe. That's nothing to be concerned about. As long as you're not doing intravascular medication, tiny bubbles in the medicine will not affect it if it's going into your muscle. Now once you have the dose about drawn up, going to want to ever so carefully recap the syringe. Be careful not to poke yourself. And then I'm forgetting the steps, but going to want to take this off, place it aside in a safe place. And then what you're going to do is grab the needle that you're ready to inject with. Go ahead and put that one on. Don't uncap it quite yet. And you're going to want to load it into the now dry auto-injector. The auto-injector will come with all sorts of different sorts of ringlets, and you'll just have to figure out which one fits the best. And it will snap right into place. We're going to set that aside, and I'm going to show you kind of where to inject. So if you have like body image issues like I do, and you see your whole body as just gelatinous goop, and you know, it's important to have markers. Now these markers are rather easy to find. You're just going to put one hand slightly above the knee, about 2 fingers above the knee. Maybe 3. Yeah, about 2 fingers above your knee. And then one hand slightly below the hip. And you see your thumbs make a window. And you want to hit right about in that window. And if you're still unsure, you're going to want to have your leg flat, relax your leg, and then raise it. And the muscle that rises, right in the muscle that rises up the most, that's about right where you want to hit. And then of course we're going to get our second cotton ball. Isopropyl alcohol, make sure it's soaked. And of course make sure there's no loose bits of cotton hanging off, as they could get in your skin and that could cause infection. And you're going to want to wipe down the entire area. And now, like I had previously mentioned, it's the drying that is what kills the germs. So make sure it's nice and dry. And I don't know who needs to hear this, but I can assure you, you will not strike bone unless your placement is absolutely abysmal and you're using the wrong size needles. You will not hit your bones. That was one of my biggest fears when starting injection. Place that aside. And we're going to wait for that to dry. Always double, triple check, whatever. So, while that is drying, I'm going to want to get this ready. And as soon as, so there's a safety mechanism on it. So you're going to want to pull that up. Now it's locked. You see it turns red. Right? And that's still drying, of course. And of course, I always have to check. I'm sorry. Always make sure you're hitting the right spots every time. Like so. And this may sound counterintuitive because you want to see almost exactly where the muscle is, but I can assure you it goes a lot better if your leg is nice and relaxed. Wiggle a little bit, make sure it's nice and relaxed. And of course, so your hands don't shake while you're injecting, shake them out just a little bit. Shake them out, shake them out, shake them out. And then, once it's about all the way dry, you're going to want to ever so carefully uncap the syringe. And mind you, if at any point in this process you accidentally touch the uncapped needle on the syringe, you're going to want to replace it and restart. Maybe I should have uncapped it before. So, it should look something like this. And you don't want to go waving it around in the air. That will contaminate it. And of course, you're going to find your marker. This thing does have a handy flashlight, but I'm not sure how it stays charged. Find your marker, find your window, and relax your leg fully. You're going to want to have a fully relaxed leg. It's okay if you tense the other leg. It'll like take all the pressure off. Right? And you're going to want to have your needle presented. Safety off. And of course you do a big breath in. Big breath out. And hit the button. Right, it won't hurt a little bit, it won't hurt at all. And this is the slow part. You want to hit it very, very slowly. Going to push the plunger very, very slowly. Because it helps with absorption, it helps not getting a medicine bubble under your skin, and it helps with less stinging and pain. And the auto-injector already controls its own angle, so you don't have to worry about keeping angle. You just have to worry about pushing as slow as you can down the syringe. And once you've got nearly all the medicine inside of you, I'm going to pull it straight out like so. It's okay if a little bit of blood or a little bit of medicine comes out of the hole you just made in you. Take gauze or alcohol pad you just use and apply gentle, gentle, gentle pressure. Don't massage it because that will, that could cause irritation later on. And you're going to want to have it about emptied. I'm going to disconnect it and then set that aside. And of course, both needles you used are they can never be used ever again. So they are going into the sharps container. Make sure you put them both in the sharps container. Apply gentle pressure if it hurts. Wipe up any blood or excess medicine that comes out of the hole. And then of course, you can reuse if you'd like, but I'd rather play on the safe side. I dropped that one, so here's 4. Soak another. And you're going to want to clean your auto-injector. Got to make sure it's clean every single time. And let that air out, let that dry off. So you want to clean in between, and any part that may have touched your skin. Right? So, this auto-injector, would I recommend using it? On certain conditions, yes, because with the auto-injector, it's precise. So if you're stressed about angles, if you stress about injection angles at any point, definitely worth it. If you're very trigger shy and physically cannot get the needle into your skin, right, then that's a good reason. That's a good candidate. Or if you're just nervous and have shaky hands, that's really about it. Because if you're actually injecting, if you're pushing into the muscle, you want to push it with the same consistency that you push a knife through butter, as you would say. But this, as you can see, it is spring-loaded. It's a spring-loaded mechanism with a safety. So it pushes it in with quite speed and quite force, which can lead to bruising underneath the skin or bruising at the site. That's not very detrimental. That doesn't mean you've wasted your dose. It simply just means too much force too quickly. It hit the skin too fast. And that's about it. It's rather pricey too. I think I spent about $75 US for the Needle Guide Assistant, an easy and comfortable injection. Needle Guide Assistant. Again, I don't know if this is actually built for people doing intramuscular injections, but it certainly has worked for me. And one other thing, last important thing, is you're always going to want to, if you're doing intramuscular, you're always going to want to rotate the injection site. So meaning go leg to leg, and then you're going to want it, leg to leg, and then glute to glute. And easily, I can show you how to do a glute injection. Obviously, I'm not going to, obviously I don't want to get taken off YouTube. So I'll never ever injector your clothes, but this is just a demonstration. This is the easiest way I found. You can do it standing and, bend around, reach your whole body, but it doesn't really work as well. So what you want to do, cross one leg over the next. Bend. So your hip is facing up towards the ceiling, and like pretend you're wearing a pair of pants. Slide your hand into the back pocket, and where your thumb meets, you're going to want to hit the outer quadrant of the glute, and you're going to hit it right into the meat of it. And that's about how you do a glute injection. This has been how to use the Needle Guide Assistant for intramuscular injection. Again, this is harm prevention only. This is not meant to replicate the advice of a pharmacy or a medical practitioner.